back at 2021, what would you say you got most to be grateful for?
Life itself. I'd definitely say life itself. I'm grateful for, in terms of some of the things that you can take for granted, and it's. I don't know if it's just become an age thing and maybe my perspective and stuff on life, but I feel that also that I just appreciate the little things a more now, like my sense of anything material, anything in my former self has been diminished, and it's gone. It's my true values upon my little boy and my lady, and just enjoying life as best we can in the most natural ways possible. So, like for example, I've become a very keen walker, like just exploring new places and just being around nature and animals has been a quite uplifting and just a new experience for me, which I want to be around. I think, and it's like a new lease of life for me. Like with moving in the countryside, I'm not a fan of the city. When I go into the city, I don't feel anxious or anything when I'm in the city, but it's just known that from that's where I used to be. It's in my mind now. It's where I used to be. It stayed as where I used to be. It's not where I want to be anymore. I go see people around there still, but it's not a place that I want to spend too much time in anymore. So for me, it's just been quite a nice journey in a way, even though it's hard past and like change is inevitable, and you'll go through a roller coaster, won't you, Tim? You know that, in terms of when you're transforming and trying to make your better self better or whatever. And I feel like I'm at that stage now where I've wanted to be, even when you might not even have known where you want to be.
Yeah.
I think I've got to a point now where I've got to a state where this is it. I'm here now after all the grit and the hard times and the trying to make things better. I'm kind of here now at the door, if that makes sense.
No, I know it completely makes sense, and it's a path maybe we've both gone down, because one thing you realise when you move away from a city, it doesn't take you long, as you just quite rightly eruditely said, before you start to realise, wow, that's a cramped place, man. You just realise how intense life is right amongst you, there and there.
Yeah, just like in the same things of like what I realise, in terms of life when you've come out. In terms of one thing that I don't really do much anymore is that my TV is very limited. I can't say I don't watch TV, because I do watch little bits, but I don't. Media in terms of news and stuff like that is gone. Don't pay attention to that. I look at it in terms of myself. I'm not letting someone tell me what's going on. If I want to know, I will go find that out and do my research, because it's just like, in this world, in this day and age now, people drip feed you drool and nonsense and propaganda, and you just don't want to be hearing all that. It can affect your mental, and I know that from like my stage of my missus, because she went through all this, with the NHS stuff. Her mentality went from one place to another, and we've finally got it to a place now where she's found like peace again with it, because once someone threatens you with your job, because with her being a dental therapist, they were trying to make things that were mandatory, didn't they, in terms of like vaccinations and stuff like that, and it sent her through an emotional, like, it's the worst I've probably seen her. And it was as someone that you love and someone that you adore and someone that you know is very good at that area, to be made to feel like that when it was awful. And once she came off that propaganda reel and started to look at things and look at what actually the legalities of what's going on, and then understood that it can't actually happen, and as long as you've got the knowledge and make sure that your employer or whoever was asking the questions to try and belittle you and make you feel small so you fall under that control. I said, as long as you tell them the legal side of it, they'll leave you alone. And that's what's happening now. And her changing her demeanour and how she's been has been the best I've seen her for months. So that's been quite nice. And she taught me as well in terms of the country, the way of life, the way they live, Tim, is it's what I've always kind of longed for in terms of, you know, when you're a kid and you're not sure and your path in life and you kind of got you're like a rabbit in the headlights. Sometimes you're just going with what's around you and whatnot. I've found now being up here is I like the slow pace. I like the old school methods. I like the traditional things that go on around here. It's like, I remember, and the best way I can sum this up, and I said this to my missus, you know, like films like Home Alone, when you see a house on the TV and it's like a perfect family and they're all spending lovely time around each other and stuff like that. This is here. And it's like when I was brought up, it was a lot of hostility around you. You didn't want to speak to your next door neighbour or someone next, because you saw like there were arguments banging on the walls, there all sorts of madness going on in those areas. And I just feel that I've got to a stage, well, we've got in a place like here now, it's just what life was meant to be like in terms of how people should treat each other. People still talk like rubbish and get on people's nerves around here, but it's because there's not a lot of people. You find it's just little squirms like over nothing, and you're like, oh, you guys don't even know. You're arguing over that. You should come where I used to.
You're not wrong there, my friend. I mean, I don't know how far you sort of want to allude on that, but dude, I remember some of the situations you grew up. I mean, you know, I don't know how far you want to go into, but you know, you were still well, to be real, you were a child, and you were around that stabbing. Then you had what the Siddiqui Khan stuff going on, and that was just everyday life. You know?
Oh yeah, I've got to be on charge. You'll see me upside down. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying, it was like the area that you grew up and stuff, man. There was, you know, stabbings. There was you know, Siddiqui Khan came from there. That was an everyday occurrence, and it's almost like you said. Once you get your mind, it almost takes you a period of time just to get your head back into a space of like, oh wow, I haven't got all that tension around me all the time, everywhere. You know what I mean?
And the best way I could sum it up is in terms of how, when I look back at it, you just had survival instincts now, and you were just impulses of what to do in certain situations and just life of survival, how to get by. And now it's in the mentalities that I'm at a state of my life now where I feel that I'm living, and that's, I don't know whether to say it's sad or whatever. Everyone's situations are different, but for me, now 30, and feel that I've got to a stage now where I've got everything around me and I feel like I'm living now. I'm living a life what we deserve. Anyone deserves a human. I just feel like I don't know what the right way to say it. I think things have just come at the right time, if that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know how to sum it. I'm a big believer in terms of how you are as a person and how you carry yourself, and the mistakes or whatever you've made in past lives. I know I've made plenty of mistakes in the past, and I feel like I'm now at a stage now since I've changed a lot about how I operate and how I do, I've seen a lot more positive things come into light, and I'm just trying to carry that forward now. I don't want to go back into the same negative path what I'd say I was on, not intentionally, but it's just from people you surround yourself with, the environment, the culture, the ethics of the area that it will come in from. now it's just totally changed since my mindset's changed, and the people that I even hang around now have changed. I used to try to be one of those people who tried to be popular with everybody. That went out of the window years ago. I realised very, very quickly is that when you try to be yourself, that popularity thing went out of the window, and I thought, why do I need to act a certain way to have these people around? I was like, I have to act a certain way. These are the people that I need to be around. I need to be around people who accept me for me. And that's where, well, now I know that I've got a very small cohort, and like they say, you can only count your friends on your digits, and I totally believe that. I do. I believe some people that you meet, you might not be friends, but they will influence you in a way that will either help you or hinder you. And then I also believe that you'll always have a certain amount of people who you will class as your friends, and then you'll have, obviously, you have your acquaintances, and then you'll have, if you're lucky, you'll have a couple of best friends, or definitely one best friend. And that's one thing that I always found hard through life is, who is your best friend? Who is your best friend, and how do you, like I used to class that, because everyone's will be different, everyone has different morals and principles, what is a best friend? And I always used to try and rationalize it in terms of, and it was just as simple as, if they respect me for who I am, I don't have to change myself, and you go through thick and thin together. They were the kind of moral, and I found, you know what I really found out? I found that was hard to actually hold at first, because there was like, and then eventually I've got three people there now, which I would class, they're on best friend levels. Like, you don't see each other much as you get older, which you don't realise when you're young. You think you're going to be around each other for a long time. And that's one thing that I did struggle with, is that even though with your friendships, you'd be all close and together forever, is that you're not. It's just that in the times that you meet, it's like you've never been apart. Because, like, people, as what I've noticed, people don't stay around in the same areas, even though you're good friends. Like, for me now, I live in Aberford. One of my best friends lives in Hull, and then another friend that I know now lives in Tadcaster. So they all live different zones, and it's just like, it's getting to, and then when the family life, if they've got children like myself, it's then finding the time with once you work in life, and it's just, that's one of those things where I thought, when you get older as a kid, you have blinkers. You're not aware of it until you get older, and that was a big, what's the right word to say? A big eye opener, shall I say, Tim? Now, you've experienced life a lot longer than me, so I'd like to hear your shot on it, because I think it'd be quite interesting.
Well, I would concur a lot with what you just said.
Yeah.
And because as you get older, you know, the further you go down the path of life, you realise that maybe if you can always count yourself as a fortunate human being if you have five good friends. You're a fortunate man. You've been blessed, because you do realise in life that, like you said, you maybe go through the phase of your 20s, and your friends, things just change, and do you know what I mean? But you realise that sometimes that you're never almost too old to be fooled by your own nature, because there's times when people come into your lives and you can think, even in your 40s, you think, oh, this person's going to be here for the rest of my life, and then and you don't even realize it. You're like, well, I'm always learning. It's not like you get to a certain level and you think, okay, I can see what people are going to be like. You can't, and that's the thing I would say. It's a never-ending journey. It never stops. You never stop trying to learn about yourself, improve yourself, find the lessons in you know what I mean. All that happens as you get older is you realize more and more and more, that's who I am. You realize that, and you don't want to change it. Whereas, like you say, when you're in your 20s and your 30s, there's always that ego pull to drag you back and go, I've got to be something else, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And the older you get, you just think, man, just to be lucky to be alive, have friends, and have your health. There's
Yeah.
not much more to life than that. They're the three riches in life.
And I agree with that, because I think it was to do with this pandemic. I felt at a stage, and I didn't even realise I've lost myself at, like, you know, who you are, your integrity in terms of what you stand for and your beliefs, and just my character and my personality. I just felt that, and it's only been past what 3 months, 4 months, where I started to, like, I just sat down and I thought to myself, I'm not the same person anymore, but not in terms of that, because I know change is inevitable and I'm welcome to change. But I thought this type of change, what I've felt, isn't me. I'm being turned something because of the external environment, and I've just sat down to myself, but I can't allow this. It's making like being because of the stress and pressures of somebody else making me feel miserable. I'm like, how am I allowing like myself, who normally would not allow this, have been like, has succumbed to it? And like, I was like, I can't be having this. I've got to find my way out here. And my way out, what really is that, and it's really strange that it was one thing what Ovi was doing, my son, and I just looked at him and I was watching him do his thing. And I was like, and it was that thing that he was carefree, doing what he wanted, carefree, living. And it was that moment when I thought to myself, that's what children do to you. They make you, when you have them, they make you realise that when you go down a path sometimes, that you remember your old self in terms of how you used to be. And that's what I'm doing again. There's parts of what I lost, what I've now reclaimed, which is making like me whole again. Like, I've opened new doors to myself, but also old doors, which makes me a better extension of myself, if that's the best way to put it.
No, it is, and as we've sort of spoken about many times, it's the experience of having a child does literally, it changes your mind. It's almost a binary thing. You go from one to the other, and you suddenly realise that my whole life now is just basically making sure my son or my daughter is protected and loved, and I'll sacrifice. That's something that's hard to say to someone who hasn't got a child. They don't really understand it. But when you've got that little thing and you're looking at it in your arms, thinking that thing's going to be reliant on me for the next 20 years, plus. It's a very humbling experience, but it's great for the soul.
Yeah, and I think what happened with me at one stage, the stage that not I didn't like love or anything like that. I think I got sucked into the what's the best way to put it, in terms of the being worried financially and things like that, like, financial worries. I think I got sucked into that, where thinking of keeping a roof over his head and things like that. And it's not that I don't want that. I think in terms of what I've started to really focus upon now is really just enhancing my knowledge in terms of survival skills and things like that, because no one can ever predict whatever goes on in life. And sometimes you can be given a shit hand, as you know, Tim, that nothing you can do about it. Sometimes shit hand of something out of your control. And so I just thought to myself now is that, and my ways of living and stuff now is I've got a real thirst for survival, in terms of not in terms of like that I'm dog eat dog, just in terms of skills, like as much as you like hunting. Now I don't know how you feel on stuff like that, but I've got really into hunting, not for a sport, for survival, like in terms of whatever you hunt, you kill, you eat, you use every material available to you as the source. Do you get what I mean? And just so basically, in the area that I live in, there's a culture of game and shooting. So I've started to get into that, in terms of just as enhance a skill and also for a survival. And I'm just looking in loads of other stuff like bushcraft and things like that. And what I'm trying to do now is get to a stage of where I'm passing on real essential knowledge back down the family line, because I feel like if anything ever goes wrong, he knows how to survive. I'm not giving him no maths and English is irrelevant in that section. It will aid him in the world that we live in now in terms of to get a job, but in terms of if everything goes wrong, I need to show him kind of both worlds. So I'm trying to show him both worlds in terms of how to get there, in terms of what you want to be, but also if everything goes wrong, that you've got these tools and this knowledge in your head to help you survive in life in the old ways. If that makes sense.
That makes complete sense. This is one of the things that I kind of contemplate more and more as I go again down the journey of life, is that we become too, and I mean this in a very general way, particularly in this part of the world, we've become too comfortable for too long, and we see, and we people have maybe, hopefully, I'm hoping that one of the positives that people take from the last 2 years, they realize how fragile the whole system around them is. It's all very fragile, and like you said, the skills that you're talking about, where does it go wrong, I kind of almost see it the other way around, thinking, well, it's not a case of doomsday scenario, therefore I learn how to eat. Maybe that's what we all need to get towards anyway. We should be growing our own food. We should be, you know.
He's got to be taught, because I live on the probably worded it wrong. I would just say it in terms of it, if it does go wrong, like you say, doomsday, that he has the skills. But I'll be showing him in general anyway, because he'll be doing it regular, because he will be going and doing these things once he's of an age where I can take him out on the fields and he can do it, but then he can start doing the real stuff when he's older, because he's got a side of the family of farmers, and they are big in that, and cousin is a really, really, really good at what he does. I went as a birthday treat. He took us to clay pigeon shooting.
Nice.
And I absolutely loved it. And he is got such a dead eye. Like, I just called him Bullseye. You were just picking him off for fun. To the point of where if he missed one, he got a bit upset, because he's that good. And I just said to him, I laughed and I chuckled to myself, and I said, I'm glad you're teaching me, because I said I'm wanting to be taught a way so that I get that good and I can pass that down, and you can pass that down to my boy, because I said I want him to be a very well-rounded person in society. I want him to learn the new and the old, because it's going to be essential for his next stage in life. Like what I always do as well, Tim. I've got those carry bag. I'm not going to say like a backpack, but you put your child in. I've got one of those, and I'm a very keen walker, and I bring him with me. I let him walk as far as he can until he gets tired, or the terrain's too much for him, and then I'll put him in my sack and we go. Every day we're either going to local big parks, and because I want to make him aware that outside is the place to be, not inside. Yes, inside to rest your head, spend time with your family, and do little bits inside, but life is outside, not indoors. So I've been really trying to push that on, not push that because that sounds wrong, just show him that it's good to be outside no matter the weather as well.
Oh, hasn't that been required, my friend, over the last 2 years? This is what's kind of the amount of times I've sat and I've contemplated it for a long time, thinking people are getting used to sitting inside, having that machine on their hands and never leaving there. And ultimately, I was trying to say to you before, we're not that much different from 5 generations back. You know, we don't change much as human beings. I think it's not, like I said, it's not only good for the mind, the body, but also the soul. It's a good thing to go out in nature and stuff like that. And because I think one of the things maybe you know this, and maybe I think it's a bit of a cliche, but when your son's your age and he's looking back, he won't remember the toys you buy him or the TV program. He'll remember these moments. These are the things that are literally grafted onto his mind, and that above everything else is more important. And it's almost like in society, we've all been conditioned into this consuming, and kids almost got to the point of like, and it's a parent one. It's almost like a deal we made with the devil, almost like.
Well, you've paused there, Tim.
I won't be. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, dude?
Sorry, you cut off then. So what were you saying?
No, I was just saying, I think it's almost a deal we made with the metaphor, almost the devil. Parents have gone, well, if you both go out to work, you can ease that guilt by buying your kid a PlayStation or an Xbox or whatever it may be, and the kids don't know any different, and it's kind of like that freedom is so essential, especially after, like I said, the 2 years we've lived through. Just having, I can go out and explore the world, and having that just essence of freedom. It trump, well, one of the better words, but it will supersede any present you may get them, any toy you may get them. These are the things that are crucial to life, and it almost goes back to as you knew. I mean, that's one of the things when you skate.
Very funny. Sorry, Tim. Back last few seconds, then it went kind of like very like tinny, and I couldn't hear you. So I heard everything else.
We're glitching the matrix, my friend.
Yeah, I tell you what, the way that it is, I feel like I definitely am on the red pill. I'm definitely telling you, because even my missus, because my missus was very, very skeptical when I first met her. And it's not, I'm not a person who forces. If she wanted to know, I'd tell her, I'd show her. And then ever so slowly, she started to just piece things, but not get the gist of it. So I wouldn't go fully in. I'd just say little things and whatnot. And it sat in her mind. And then all of a sudden, she's fully privy to a lot of things that are going on now. Like she can see, like they said, I said, the one thing, what you'll do once you know it, and I say these words, hidden in plain sight.
Mm-hmm.
Hidden in plain sight. I said, you will see what they're doing. They're not hiding from it. And they'll do it blatantly in front of you, and then make out that you're crazy. And I said, watch what happens. And with all this scenario, she's seen it fully orchestrated, and she knows the drill now. She's very, very on it.
Well, that's good to hear after the last couple of years. Now, kind of almost like a bit of a divert. You mentioned to me, obviously you've given up the rugby. So what do you do now for sport, or don't you do? I mean, you must be keeping up the exercise thing because you're a big lad.
You know what? That's one thing that I've struggled with, and the one thing that I did struggle with is finding balance. When I first become a father, I found it hard, and I think I've only just now started to find balance. But I've had a few things which has not allowed me to all be able to go and do my thing every time. So I've not really started to do a sport until now, and the sport that I would, like I was saying, it will be clay pigeon shooting, because I said I need to do something now what I can enjoy, which is good for me mentally, where I'm also enhancing a skill but not putting myself in too much elements of danger now. And it's like you say, because of when you have a child, they make you think different. And now for me, in terms of the rugby and stuff, and because I've stopped, and even though I'm still a big man, the stature and the weight and the muscle that I used to carry, I don't have that anymore, because of the circumstances dictate, and your body will morph into the mechanism it needs to be for what you're doing. And if I went back into it now, I'd need to train. I'd need to. It'd take probably a year to get my body into the stature it needs to be back in the sport. And I think as everything that's gone on now, even though I'm playing in a conference league, the standards dropped. Not only that, I just don't want to risk getting injured, because my missus got she was diagnosed last year with psoriatic arthritis. Don't know if you've ever heard of it, Tim. Don't know if you know what it does. And basically, for someone who, when I first met, is really, really bubbly and really happy and jolly and everything, but once we had a diagnosis of that, she was suffering beforehand, but we had no choice but to wait with everything that was going on. and then we got a verdict a year in, and then it just changed from physically, in terms, and then in mentally as well, because she couldn't do what she used to do physically. So that was a real hard to do by, because at points was where she was just in agony all the time, really tired and fatigued, and going through trials and things like that now, which I was very skeptical about, because I said, I'm not sure about these trials and this injections and things like that going into you. I said, there must be other ways to help you and how to combat all your ailments and stuff like that. And I tried to look, and there were certain things what you could do, which we tried, but it was having no effect. Nothing was happening. So then we took the opportunity from this trial, and it worked, and the pain subsided, and it gave her back her life to a degree. And then all of a sudden now, after I think it's been past month, it started to all come back. So it's that in itself, in terms of, like we're saying, me going and doing stuff, has kind of had to take a back seat, because I'm being a family man, but also supporting my missus in terms of, because she can't do as much as what she normally would. So my uptake has been more, hence the reason, like when I said to you the other day, like I was doing that much where my body just shut down. It was overworked. I was trying to do everything possible that I could, and it just took its toll on me. But that's to the point of where I've had to realign. If I'm doing that much and I can't be there, then it does something to me like that. That's going to shorten my lifespan ridiculously, and I can't afford to do that.
Exactly. I mean, going back to the arthritis and stuff. Have you researched or explored CBD oil?
Yes, and it's what I found. It's finding the right one, like where to get it from. Like, I understand where the because I believe in it. I used to have it, but then once the person that stopped doing it for me, who was very good, and he stopped it because he wanted to. He ended up getting sent down for it all. So I could no longer use him as a supplier anymore. And it's just that thing of trust now, because not everyone does it authentically and how it's meant to be. People do it in the wrong terms, add additives, add things which is actually not doing you any benefits, but more harm than good. So for me, it's because I've even wanted to grow and stuff like that, but I've not got a big enough space or enough land away from everybody to have my own crops without it being suspicious, or people, especially somewhere like around here, ring it old fed.
Yeah. But isn't it sad, man? I mean, I was contemplating the other day and thinking, here we are in 2022, and people, like you've just eruditely said, one of your friends is in a cage by the state for growing a plant, man. What are we doing? It's how barbaric are we in 2022 that we're still even on that mindset, you know?
And I always look at it like this. It's because there's something natural that is being known. You know, you can thoughts from it. You can make infrastructure. It's a medical herb. It's been known to help out people in so many ways. It's untrue, but it's got bad press because it's a miracle drug, isn't it? And now what they've allowed to do now is allowed to the people to manipulate it, so it's not as what's the right word? Original, authentic, and have the properties that it should. Now, because I've been speaking to people, and they say that they've manipulated it so it's only got so much THC in and all this and that. I'm like, why are you doing stuff like that? Why did you not give it out in its natural, normal form? I want it in its normal form, and that's what I'm finding hard now, Tim, to find it in its natural form. If you know anywhere, Tim, send it my way.
But this goes back to what's the beginning of the conversation. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts, but what's got me over the last 2 years is the same people that literally will argue against, you know, what CBD or essential, you know, and they will have really big erudite, you know, conversations about why we should be. And now everyone's just been, I don't know, everyone's got this love lust for big pharma, and everyone's like, oh yeah, and this,
Yeah.
like, how can you have this dissonance in your head?
I struggled with that, and I'll tell you one of the things why I struggled with that. When you're in an environment, especially in teaching, and when you're seeing everyone go to it, and then when I never discussed it with anybody, but if they ever did, I'd let them know my thoughts. I said, whether you agree with me or disagree, that doesn't matter. It's not really, it doesn't faze me. But if you want to know my opinion, I said I don't agree. I said it's my body. I'm exercising my rights of body autonomy. I'm not. No one's touching me because it's my body. I get to choose, and no one's going to sanction me or try and put a medical intervention in place for me. I get to choose that, and if I don't want it, I won't have it. And I remember having the first time it ever came into fruition, and then one of the bosses sat down with me, and he tried to, you know, when they try to make you feel scared. And I said, look, I said, I don't fear this, me. And I says, look at it this way, if I feared it, why would I sign a contract basically saying that, because you'll laugh at this, it was going round that black people suffered with it more, right? So I said, and then they asked me, do you want to have the time off or do you want to work? I said, have you heard what you're talking about here? I said, you are talking about mass segregation here. And I said, you are going to start a race war. I says, what's the difference between me and you? I said, just a skin color. I said, people have their all the ailments in the, like any ailments. You could have something wrong with you now and you could be susceptible to something, but you don't know about that. I said, I don't know about that. But I says, what you are going to do now, you are going to cause mass racial tension. I says, and for me, I don't believe in the ethics and the way this is going down. I wouldn't work. I will work because I'm not using it as an excuse. I don't believe, and I said I don't believe in it. So why would I use it as an excuse? I'll work. And then he looked at me and he was a bit. I think he was a bit shocked in terms of how much, because he used to be my teacher, and then he's my boss, and I think he was shocked in terms of that. Anyway, months go down the line. Not months, a couple of weeks go down the line, and they tried then making it mandatory to wear masks. I was like, and I walked in, and he's like, you need to put a mask on, and everyone was stood there in this room. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. He says, can we have a word? I said, of course we can. So we went out there, these double doors, had a chat, and he says, what's the problem? Why won't you wear one? I said, for me, I says, I have the right to a body autonomy. I says, that means that I'm allowed to say what goes on in my body. I says, and I put it back on it, and I used the contract. I says, can you tell me in my contract where it states that you have rights over my human body, where you are allowed to put medical interventions in place to medical interventions in place which I have no consent over? And he stopped and looked at me. And I could see he didn't know what to say. And the first thing that he said that came out of his mouth, I have to speak to HR about that. I said, you speak to him all you want. I said, it's fine by me. Then the next day, I get called to his office. We sit down. And then he says, like, how are you feeling and whatnot? I said, yeah, I'm all right. How are you? And he's like, and then he said he spoke to HR and they said, they're worried about your mental state. So then, oh, here we go. So I said, right, let me get this straight. So now you try to diagnose me with being having mental illness or suffering mentally because I don't want to wear a medical intervention. I said, am I living in a parallel universe here? I said, how does that make sense? That I've got mental health issues because I won't put a mask on. I said, and he said, no. And I said, well, what are you saying to me then if that's a no? Because what I'm hearing is that you're telling me I've got mental health issues by not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And then they said, and then a few months later, not long after that, it kind of just went off on a tangent. But end of it, I never heard anything since after that. He said, I'll be back in touch with you. Didn't hear nothing since. And after that, they didn't even question anything that I did. Like they used to like have your medical records in terms of they wanted to know your vaccination status. And I was like, no, you know that's breaking GPDR rules. You can't do that. So why you don't ask me again? Why? And they never have. And sad. It's really sad, Tim.
It is sad, but it's one of the things of like, I don't know. There is some sort of comparison, and you can. Let's go back 15 years ago. Okay, there's always been an element of racism, but do you know one thing I noticed, Jerome, I noticed it when you our paths first met. There's a lot of people who outwardly they'd have to talk a good game. Oh, they're like, oh yeah, I'm pro this and pro that. But you realise, like we've seen in the last 2 years, that mask soon slips, and you think when the words come out their mouth, you're like, wow. Now I saw that a long time ago. These people are literally just walking on with a human skin mask, and behind that little thin mask, they got some of the dirtiest, horriblest, vile thoughts about the humanity that's possible to think. But they'd be able to almost, like a virus, sneak into our society and just infect everyone around them. And now they're just almost, you're seeing the worst evidence of this stuff. Because it breaks my heart at times to think, man, are we really getting to a point where we're dividing down race lines again? Really? This is 2022, but this is where we are.
That's what I find mad as well, Tim. And one thing what really baffled me is I thought the segregation levels were bad enough in terms of race, wealth, and stuff like race and wealth, and then I'm just at a stage now where it's died down now, but it's still with certain social areas and stuff, depending where you live, but it's still quite high. Mask wearing and jab status. When I could not believe that someone had allowed someone to tell them over a news channel that it's bad to hang around unvaccinated people. And I just thought to myself, and then you should hang around with people that don't wear a mask. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, yeah. And then people were following it. Anyone that was following that, I lost a few people that I thought I was okay with over it, and I just thought to myself, and that's not my decision, that was theirs, because it's what I was like I say, because of my choice and beliefs, and because they thought it was extreme, and that I'm going cuckoo probably in their heads. They decided not to. They don't talk or associate with us anymore. But for me, it's no skin off my nose. It just highlights to me that they don't need to be with me. They're just the wrong type of people. But it's sad that it's more levels of segregations and division now, which has reached unprecedented heights. Now I've never seen that level of segregation. We had it bad enough, but now it's gone to extreme levels, which I was like, in my lifetime, you always know something's going to happen, but you don't know what, and I didn't see that kind of segregation happening, but it's there. Because who would see that you'd get segregated over those two things? I never saw it coming. Did you ever see it coming, Tim? Because you would. It's crazy until when I was until I saw things like Agenda 21 and 30, which unveiled the whole plan, and you're like, some of these people have been planning this for time. It's ridiculous, and you're like, but why? And then it dawned on me in terms of control as humans. And I've noticed is that if we don't feel like we've got some form of control, we we feel not lost, but we feel, don't know what the right word is. Maybe is it whole? I'm maybe not saying it right, but I've realised everyone has their own playing field when it comes to control. Some just want it as in the normality, like to live a normality. So they want certain levels of control, which are normally with themselves. But then there's people they get power, where there's the lust for the power, where the control becomes, they don't want to just control themselves, they want to control everybody else, and that's where I think it's dangerous, and where it's got to now to levels where I don't want to say a lot, but there's a minority now have got that much of lust for power, which has then had an effect on the common majority of people, which is, I feel, is really, really sad. I just don't understand why people, or some would want to control someone to levels like that. It just makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to, what do you gain or achieve from that? You don't get nothing from it, really. What do you get from it?
You don't, but it's kind of trying to say to you earlier, my friend, is like, this is what I'm saying, we've almost been suckered into thinking that we're this superior being. We're not. This is what I'm saying. You haven't got to go that far in the world to realize this is part of human nature. People you give them an inch of control, and before you know it, all the dark side of their minds start coming out. And that's happening all over the world. And it's happened all your lifetime, happened all my lifetime. And we're like, it doesn't really matter. I can go down to Burger King and get a cheap burger. I can get I can get my fix with some trainers or something. And it's like most people know, even in the outside, for want of a better word, normally people know that the iPhones they're buying or the Primark T-shirt they're buying for cheap, they know it's made by slave labor in China. But they're like, oh, but never mind, I get a cheap T-shirt and I've got a really good nice phone. And they've played into that. And this is what I'm trying to say is, I think has hopefully been the last 2 years, is that even it's just a small amount of people have woken up and seen what's going on. And for those people, you've got to think, like you're saying right at the very beginning of the conversation, all that's important in life, Jerome, is your friends, your family, and the ones you've got around you. Because that's all you need. The rest of it is just an illusion around you to say, oh, you need the cities because you need this, you need that, you need that. No, you don't. You count on your friends and family. That's the only things you really count for. Now, talking about... Go on.
No, so it's all right. Go on. I was just going to say, in terms of like when you say that, I was just going to extend it and say, like, I feel like through generations going down, the knowledge that we was meant to pass on has started to get watered down. It's not getting passed on right, because if it was getting passed on right, these things would not happen. We've allowed ourselves as humans to be turn a blind eye to what's really important and be taken down the wrong paths, which we feel that's important, which we're forgetting the sole essence of what it is to live in this realm and how to live this life. And now I speak to people now, and you know what's really sad, Tim, is how much people rely on like things like Siri, Alexa to do the average day task. I said, your mind's going to turn into mush.
Yeah.
I said, you are now relying on a computer to tell you everything instead of using this. That you was given one of the best tools in this universe.
Yeah.
There's no computer that can match it. The computers can do incredible things, but there's certain things that yes, mind can do that they're not. Well, they're aware of it because we all know, like with the AI and stuff like that, try to tap into it. But it's such a advanced computer which we have taken for granted and do not use to its full potential, I believe. And I believe there's lots of hidden things about the human psyche, how we used to live, the things that we were capable of. I feel like we've progressed in certain ways, but digressed in others. It's really strange. It's really, really strange. Like, look at some of the stuff some human minds can build is absolutely phenomenal. But then you look at like the thing is sometimes where I feel is in some areas we've gone into Pandora's box too many times, and we've unleashed things what I don't believe need to be here or belong here. But it's because of how we are as human beings, we lust to know things and try and create new things, but sometimes this new creations do not always a good thing, and it's all depends on the wielder, doesn't it? Whoever's behind the wheel. And unfortunately, some people behind these wheels are always seem that to have some agendas what don't suit the whole population, just a minority.
Yeah, it is, but I think the positive message I always try to push through on that is that we've all got choices. This is the thing. Yes. If people walked away from all this, then this doesn't exist. It is literally that paper tiger. It's an illusion. You don't like you were just saying. You know, the amount of times I walk through and I'm like, I love to walk out in nature and think, it's all here. It's the fruit will grow, the plants will grow, nature will carry on. All this, the doom and gloom and everything. Nature's going to carry on. There's certain things. And this is what I'm saying. If people, we have got the ability to walk away, and that's what I'm saying. Nobody's got. I've always said this. Nobody's got a gun over somebody's head and saying, play that PlayStation, watch that iPhone. No, we haven't got that physical. Someone stood over us with a gun. It's choice. And if more people make the choice, the better the world gets. And that's the power we all have in us as human beings that's been forgotten about. But man, that power has so much, because I mean, going back to what you said about the brain, when you think about it, that we all inhabit this mind that can basically project ourselves into the future and will be selfish. Like I said, I know for a fact, if there was a situation where a car was running down and your son, you would jump in front of the car to save your son. No machine's going to do that for us. No machine. And that's one of the great advantages we've got as human beings. Like you said, there's nothing can compete against this mind we've been given.
The way that the calculated way up a situation, even though like in certain calculations it's in percentages say that you wouldn't survive, like you say, a human being would do what they believe morally right in that situation and go do that, whether their life is in jeopardy from doing that, the instinct to go save another is there. Like you say, in machines, it's calculated. If that's not going to happen, it's not going to do it. And if the probability is lower than in the one way and another, it's going to fall with a higher probability. And it's written. Like you say, I think a lot more people now are more aware of what's going on now, because when I've been looking around, there's been marches all over the place. There has been so much civil unrest because I think there's a fine line in there where it's like enough's enough for people, and I have seen some, and it's been uplifting to me because it's made me realise then because sometimes you can feel alone, and you've probably experienced it yourself, Tim, at points of where your mind and where you think, bloody hell, am I the only person that thinks like this? I can't be the only person seeing these things, because I've read, like, me and my missus have got the George Orwell book upstairs, and we read stuff like that, and you see what he's saying. You see it. It's in our atmosphere. But I also believe that there's utopia here and dystopia here, but it's what we choose to tune into. If you tune into the dystopia, not that you don't see it and believe in it, but to the point of where you actually become it, because it's easily done. You can easily fall into that where you don't stand up against things or live the life in the utopia way that you want to. So, for example, like, look at you, Tim, you didn't want to live in the city anymore. You knew it wasn't working for you. You started to search for your utopia, which was to get out of the city, get into the sticks, and live in that utopia setting, which you are now in. You are in an element and lifestyle that you want to be in, which you find a lot more comfort. Well, it's only just sad that out of that area is that that certain things still go on, and it's just, I wish everyone started to try to live in that utopia in terms of, but I suppose everyone's utopia is different, and that's where it gets tricky, and how they perceive it. But I wish that people would go down the path of that when you're taught as a kid, helping each other out and not segregating by race and stuff. I think it's got where it's been hard is that I think children are quite good at being that. I think it's the adulthood where it's the change where people find it hard to change when they get older. It's like, oh, I'm that way now, so I can't change and I won't change. And I think it's that change, that mindset in terms with people, or just something what helps them see that you can do that. Because I feel that it's always comes down to, oh, I'll lose my job, or I'll lose all my material area what I live in by making that choice. But for me, I've lost that now to the point of where, in search of looking for that utopia and being there, I've realised you will go through ups and downs no matter in life anyway. So why not try and live it in the best way and the way that you want to live it in that? And for me, it's that setting. Unfortunately, some people go for the money, they go for the status, they go for the things like the big car, the big house, the fake looking lady who's not real because she's got fake breasts, fake lips, fake hair, fake nails, fake everything else. And I just wish people went back to the natural side and go for what's all the natural things and what's most important. I'm probably going off on a bit of a tangent there.
No, I think you're right, and I think one of the things I've always, I love Orwell, always have been, but I think one of the lessons to me has always been, I always take them from Orwell, and I think particularly just I always try to be in my life is like, it's the self-censorship. It's when people, they don't want to say stuff in public because they're like you said, oh, if I do this, I'm going to lose that. Well, if you start doing that, that's a dangerous road to go down, because before you know it, there's so many subjects you can't talk about. But equally, it's a balance, because there was a time when, and I think we should I don't want every conversation to be about politics, because it's like there's so much more to life than politics, but everyone's obsessed with politics.
I switch off and like, can you remember Davis? Remember him? I spoke to him the other day, actually, and it was just through messaging, because he asked me if I had an old photo since we were at primary, and I said I don't. I don't have one now, but I might have one when I go. I'll have to look back at my mum's, see if there's all in tray in big quality streets tin, where what people used to do, put them in big tins and that old photos and in photo albums and stuff in there, and out spares in stuff like that. And he ended up getting onto. I don't know how we ended up getting onto it, but he said something like 2021. He says for the past 2 years have been a bit rubbish, haven't they? He said, "Oh, Paul's well," and I just said to him, I found it very roller coastery. I said, trying to ensure not ensure my son's future, but guide him and show him that life's precious and really a nice place to be amongst all the chaos what was going on at the moment. And I said, he's not aware of it, because I've made sure he's not aware of it. It's something that I do not want him to think what life is. It's not what life is. And we ended up getting a bit political. And I said about, he asked me, he said something political. He said like who I stand for and what's your thoughts and beliefs, because it ended up coming up about COVID and vaccinations and stuff like that. And he said, so what's your stance on it? And I remember saying to him that, like I was stating to you about body autonomy and like in law, that if it can't be made mandatory because it's against human rights, and it's fingered by law, is that it's against the law, and I think it's the Control and Disease Act. And anyway, stated that, and then he asked me another question like, who would you stand like? What's your stance in terms of who, if you voted for somebody, or would you vote for them for yourself in terms of your gains or for society? Well, I says I wouldn't vote for someone for those two reasons what you're asking me, because they are very wide spectrum and general points to go on, because anything can affect me and anything can affect society. So I said I'll vote for someone who stands for a person's constitutional rights and upholds them, and who follows not the corporate law, common law. Because when I learnt about that, I thought, how have we ended up slipping into corporate law instead of common law? Common law is so simple, but the corporate law is what we're in now, and it's like, and once I said that to him, I think I blew his, like, since I don't think he knew that I was aware of lots of things that were going on, and I said that I've learned and stuff, and he kind of like cut this conversation dead then. So I thought, okay, then I know what your stance is on it. If I say that, then your stance is a bit different to mine, and that's cool, because I've not spoke to them for a long time, Tim. They've gone down a very material path. They're into the fancy cars. Like Kevin now drives around in a Mercedes coupe. He's got very material. He's into his women still, but in terms of like the status, I've got this. He owns his own fashion brand thing now. He's always posting on Instagram in terms of, promoting himself, business and stuff like that. And like they're showing off the watches, where they're at drinking, that they're living this high life. And he forgets that I know him.
Exactly.
I know him. And what he really is living like. And it was sad. It was sad because I remember, because I saw him in Asda car park, and this is why I sort of know about how he drives and stuff like that. Because we spoke for about 45 minutes, and we said we'd meet up, and afterwards, and I just thought to myself, the path that they've gone down, and the path that I've gone down, we're not the same people that we was back then. We probably wouldn't gel the same. We might have a laugh and stuff whatnot, but I don't think we'd be able to sit down and have a laugh, because they're into a lifestyle which I don't want and don't agree with. If I said let's go out, the first thing that they'd say, we'll go to a club, we'll get bottles, we'll do this and that, and I'm sorry, not for me. That's not my life.
No, David, that's the great thing about when you're just those few years ahead of you, like I am. I mean, I've got so many memories with Kevin, but if I ever saw him giving it large, I'd be like, dude, you're the same guy that was in my car. That it's only happened to me once in my life when I had to stop the car and get out.
We all had to get. That was gas mask territory. That too.
It was mad. We had to stop. I've never stopped the car ever, but you know what I mean. So I don't care how above your station you get, dude. I'll always that is always forefront in my mind. And so just before we wrap this up, man, there's a couple of things. So you mentioned obviously your lad likes going out and you like going to walk.
Yeah.
What's his relationship with music like at the moment? Does he like music?
Yes, Tim.
Nice.
He loves the music. Like if it's anything that's got a beat to it, like a real like house. He likes house music at the minute. Which is I was like always like his old daddy is like. Because I still like my house music, but not as much as I used to. But he's proper. He hears this particular house song, and when he hears it, his arms are up. He's moving his legs. He's shaking his backside. He's talking. He loves it. It's and me and Sally with every so on a night, like just after his tea and whatnot, to make it like tight, like not tire him out, but get him ready for like bed. So like. We'll get him dancing and stuff like about an hour on before, so just a bit like a nice moment, and he will dance, and he will, as long as you're playing the music that he likes, he will dance and he will dance and he will dance. He will talk to the point of now where when the song's finished, and he's only 17 months, Tim, when the song's finished, he'll point, if it's on the TV, he'll point to put it back, or if he knows it's on your phone, he will grab the phone, or if he's holding the phone, and pass you when it's finished so you can put it back on.
Nice.
And he's only 17 months, Tim. He is so clever. Me and Sally and her mum, my mum, and can't believe what he's like. It's not that we can't believe. We're amazed in how alert he is and how he puts things together very, very quickly. He knows how to open doors and that now, Tim. He can open the door. That kitchen door he can open now, and he knows shut properly. He knows now. I just need to give it a bit of a whack, like a bit more of a push to get it open. He's a climber, which every kid is, but the way that he like, and what makes you laugh is that he watches you if you're not looking to what you're not looking, and he'll smile and he'll laugh, and you'll go, don't do it, you know, it's naughty, and he starts laughing and climbs.
Brilliant, man.
Me and my missus were saying he's just a happy, cheeky chappy, and there's so much that he reminds of us, both of us. When he does certain things, he's not him, like, he's a bit, I'm like, I can't get mad because I'm thinking, because that's me running through his veins.
Yeah.
So I can't get mad at him for that. I've just got to guide him through it, and hopefully myself and my missus guide him well, and that's my next hope, is that we guide him, we're doing the right thing by him to guide him into the life when we're not here. God forbid. Hopefully I'll live here for a long time. See if we can reach a century, Tim. That'll be
well, I mean, the one thing I would say to you, and honestly, it's almost like a daily mantra you've got to rub in your head. Enjoy these moments, because before you know it, they're 29, 30, and they're getting, you know, like you say, they want, you know, the car, the house, and you're like, that, where did that go? Honestly, I have to say it to you, really, cherish every moment, because it flies so quickly.
Yeah, because Tim, I can remember that time. I can't remember the name of the estate, but I remember the time where you used to live when we were playing for Fawns juniors and stuff, and then you was helping out in the scenes, and then you ended up taking more of a, as time went on, you took more of a responsibility within Fawns, and I just remember, like, the way that he used to live there. And what made me laugh is that I used to know when we used to go upstairs and stuff, that when we used to come down and used to hide his sleep back at sofa, he used to hide his sleep back at sofa, and the way your dynamics and stuff. I look back and stuff now, and I crease myself up laughing. But what I was mainly trying to get to is that the lifestyle that you did and the things that you did for us, and as a man, like, you didn't have to, just to help us go to football and stuff. I will always remember those kind of things, and the character of the person that you are. And I'm talking to you now after years and years, and I can still see that same person, but I can also see that you're also someone different as well, but not a bad different. It's a good different. It's just through knowledge and the way you live your life now, and it's just it's nice to speak to someone that I've not spoken to for a long time, and still have a very good, strong chat. We've spoke for an hour and a half, and it's like it's like the last time I spoke to you a few years ago when we did the podcasting thing before, and it's been really nice, and so I thank you for that.
No, I do. Well, maybe this is a good time to wrap it up, but I think it goes back to kind of a theme what you were saying, dude. I mean, it's one of the great things in life that the people, as you said, that you can hold tight in your life. You can almost, this is something you probably know yourself, but it definitely never changes, that you can have some people that you don't see for like 5 years, 10 years, and then first time you meet them again, it's like, oh, that 5 years didn't happen. You know, they're the ones you cherish, man. They're the ones you cherish. That's because that's what you call good friendship. You know what I mean? And I've got so many happy memories like you, and you know, I've got happy memories, but it's enjoying life and cherishing, I think, which is what he's been trying to say. Well, dude, before we wrap it up, I want to say thank you for giving me the time, man. I mean, I can't believe time. But then it always used to fly, dude, didn't it? That was the thing. So before we do wrap this up, I'll leave you with the final word. Drop some enlightenment on this, man.
Oh, do you know? I don't. When I'm always put on the spot like this, I've always struggled, right? When people like say stuff like that, and it's always been my thing. I always think I've got this to say, and then when it's the mic drop moment, I'm a bit of a choker. I'm like, I can't get it out and what to say. But if I was to say something enlightening, I'd want to come out with something like real, like a philosopher. But I just think, like you say, and you just got to live your life and live it like today, like tomorrow's not going to exist. If that's the best way, I think that's the best way I can put it, because I think no one's guaranteed anything in this life, and you've got to grasp hold of, like you say, your family, your loved ones, and everything, and you've just got to live it like there's going to be no tomorrow. And like you say, the most important thing as well is enjoy it. Got to enjoy it. Don't be living in fear, in doom and gloom. Live like you. That's all I'll just say. Enjoy. I think the best word I can say, enjoy, and try and prosper in this life as much as you can. That's what I'll leave it at that too.
Perfect. Well, that was beautiful. Well, before we do go, life is people.
Well, they say that life is people, and that people are angels, and that angels are devils, and the devils